What I'd like to talk to you about today is how can we fight these criminals that are behind this illicit trade, this multi-billion US dollar global criminal enterprise, by simply cutting a massive source of their funds. Now, look at the room. You all look like decent, law-abiding citizens. Not you. But I'm pretty sure some of you have already, perhaps unknowingly, purchased some counterfeit handbags, counterfeit watches, pirated DVDs. More importantly, here, what I'd like you to get out with is the recognition that behind all of those innocent purchases, there is the bigger danger of the bigger illicit trade. Today, we don't necessarily realize what sort of impact illicit trade has. Let me give you a few figures. 250 billion US dollar. This is what the OECD estimates the impact of illicit trade. This is 2% of global trade. 2% of global trade. This is also the equivalent of the Hong Kong GDP, or that of the Philippines. Another figure, 1.7 trillion US dollar. This is what is estimated as the global impact of counterfeiting and piracy around the world by the International Chamber of Commerce. That translated, or if you look at our products, tobacco, it's 10 to 12% of all tobacco consumed around the world, all cigarettes consumed around the world that are illicit. This is 1 cigarette out of 10. Put them together and lay them end to end. This is 10,000 times around the world. Imagine, because I would suspect that you can't care much about profit losses for tobacco companies, but imagine what governments could do with an additional 50 billion US dollar in government revenues that they currently lose to illicit cigarettes. Think hospital, think schools. But it's not only that. If you look at counterfeit, it's not those cheap counterfeits that we're talking about. It's those sophisticated counterfeits that intend to cheat consumers out of a lot of money. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is about technology that will help us, consumers, to fight against it. If you look at illicit trade, there's clearly funding of organized crime. There's funding of those big criminal organizations. I think we call them triads here in Hong Kong. Mafia in Italy. But it's also funding petty crime. It is precisely the petty neighborhood criminality that your children are exposed to when they come back to school every day. When you buy a small, cheap counterfeit at the corner of the street, what you actually do is that you fund the small criminal network of the neighborhood that eventually takes over the control of the neighborhood. If you look at illicit trade vis-à-vis legitimate businesses, illicit trade damages legitimate businesses, and what you see is it takes a lot of people out of work. A recent report in the European Union estimated 2.5 million jobs were lost to counterfeiting and piracy of a various number of consumer goods, including handbags, cigarettes, toothpaste, watches, etc. this is something that today also funds terrorist activities. You all know Interpol. They said that in Northern Ireland, quote unquote, paramilitary groups and organized crime rely on counterfeiting, especially of cigarettes, to reap off huge profits and even fund terrorist activities. Take my hometown, Paris. In January this year, the attackers of Charlie Hebdo funded their terrorist activities by selling counterfeit sport shoes. This is increasingly a war that we will pick up with technology. So today I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of technology that will help us address that, all of us. And when I say us, it's you, consumers, as well. When I started 10 years ago in my job, I was looking at counterfeit products, genuine, comparing, clearly you could make the difference. Today, despite my 10 years of experience in my job, same product, without my tools and without opening the packs, I can't tell the difference. How can a consumer tell the difference? This is a war of technology, and we will fight it with technology. These guys are what one could call technologically savvy. They're getting smarter, they're getting more creative, and all this to fool the consumers. All this to make sure that they keep the money coming in to their pockets, to the detriment of the consumers. So, how do we fight back? We mobilize consumers. So, I'd like to show you today a little bit of what my company has been working on. Like many other companies, my company works with law enforcement. We try to enhance the cooperation as much as possible. We do research in illicit trade. We provide training. We provide intelligence on suspect shipments, on suspect counterfeiting manufacturing facilities, or even help on dismantling networks. We also work with other businesses, other companies that are plagued by the same counterfeiters. All this to mobilize the business community against that. But we need more. We also need the consumers. You. How can I explain that over 10 years, my company has invested into developing a technology that will allow us to secure our products against counterfeiting, against smuggling, but as well against tax evasion. This is a technology that will allow all the actors of the supply chain, manufacturer, transporter, trade, retail, and consumers, you, to fight against this. But beyond tobacco, this is a technology that will also, and is actually also being deployed on other goods. Think watches, think shampoo. Here's the basic principle. We don't rely on tax stamps. We don't rely on fiscal marking. We don't rely on holograms. All this is going to be copied at a point in time. What we do rely on is actually quite simple. It's a 12-digit alphanumeric code that is generated at the production, exactly at the production time, based on a few elements such as time, location, factory, production line, market of intended retail, so we know where it's going. All these informations are going through an algorithm with several keys and give out a code of 12 digits that look absolutely random. Now, when you are at the retail, what you do is that you decode that. And by decoding that, you know whether the code is valid, and you know where it was produced, who produced it, what it is, what it was intended for as a market of retail. The second interesting benefit is you don't need to store the code. There's no database that you can hack. Sorry. And since you can't steal the codes, counterfeiters cannot steal the codes. With that unique identifier, that allows us to apply tracking and tracing. And this tracking and tracing is important because it gives you the context. Where did this product come from? Where is it supposed to be? If it's not at the place where it's supposed to be, then there's a problem. Let me show you how it works. So I've got here, this is a phone, smartphone, very simple, standard, not even the latest model. So I'm going to plug it there. And I have here a mock-up of what could be a pack of cigarettes. But it can be a bottle of shampoo, it can be toothpaste, it can be a watch, it can be medicine. Imagine you're at the shop. You see that, you look for the code. Oh, here we go. I take my phone, I click on the app here. What I see here, scan. I press scan. I just look at it here, shaking a little bit. What this does is it takes the 12-digit string, and what it's going to tell you is the result of the query of this 12-digit string and confirm to you whether the code is correct or not, and provide you with information on tracking and tracing. Now, when you see this, green light, what does it mean? Good, the code is valid. You scroll down. This product was manufactured in Switzerland in our factory, April 13. You have the exact 9:47 a.m. time to the minute of when it was produced, which machine, and if you come down, you see that 3 days later, it was shipped out of our warehouse. To where? Let me see. Philip Morris Asia Limited, Devon House, Taikoo Place. That's my office address. I see this, the code is valid. It's a green dot. I just purchased it. Now, for those like me who are not very good in geography, there's also a map. And if you're not sure about geography, you can check and it, oh, yes, and it actually indeed goes to Hong Kong. I'm buying this pack in Hong Kong. The code is green. This is fine. Imagine you apply that on all consumer goods, and with a smartphone application, you can do that. Check your product. You, consumers, are then empowered to fight against that. I'm passionate about this, but it's not only because my company is affected by illicit trade. It's because I've seen over these 10 years how many innocent people, consumers, are victimized by illicit trade. The small street vendor that sells small knockoffs, cheap knockoffs, is actually part of a much bigger and complex criminal network. Some people will say, having a fake counterfeit bag is no big deal. But if 1 million people think and act that way, then it's a massive deal to the only benefit of criminals, syndicates, and terrorists. There's one thing I'd like you to take away from today. Illicit trade is not victimless, and we all have a role to play as consumers to fight back and making this world a better world for us and our children. Thank you very much.